Good day, everyone. Time now for the general forecast of what's going on with the weather, with Weather News Today, with J7409, the name you know, the news you can use. I'm not going to do a big splash on Alberto now. I'll have all the details coming up in a separate video. But as of right now, and the latest update from the National Hurricane Center, the maximum sustained winds are 65 miles per hour. The minimum central pressure is 991 millibars, so that has risen one. It was 990. Now, if you're tracking it, it's located 29.0 north, 86.0 west, and it's moving north at around 6 miles per hour. We want to think about everyone up in the areas around in Maryland that's flooded so very bad. They haven't got over the last big flood in 1,000 years they said wouldn't happen. And yes, it has happened again. I feel for you people. I understand it's not easy. But hang in there. You'll get through it, hopefully. And speaking of this area, the National Weather Service this morning at 6:39 a.m., they have extended the flood warning, and it is for these counties right in here. If you live in any of these counties, it is extended the flood warning until 11 a.m. this morning, okay? You know, all the streams, everything is flooding. I don't have to go on and on about this. And here's some more locations right down in here that may experience flooding. So please be aware. Don't go out in these very heavily flooded areas that are still possibly going to continue flooding. Stay away or be swept away. That's what the motto is for this. With the river banks and the culverts, and they're all going to become unstable and unsafe. So please, please keep this in mind. Before we get going with the GFS map, courtesy of Tropical Tidbits, thank you so much, Levi. I appreciate it a lot for you letting everyone use this graphical information. I would like to say that I have just heard on mainstream media weather forecasts that Franklin County, Florida, may be having some evacuations going on. I'm not sure of this. So, I mean, don't say you said they were evacuating. I'm not sure. This is just what they said. They may have some where the low-life flooding may start to occur. But I will tell you, the biggest threat in this area is going to be tornadoes. Tornadoes as of now. That's a big threat. I don't know if that's why they may have evacuations going on or not. They may not even have any. This is what I just heard, okay? Now, let's turn on the model here and check out. We got a whole lot of stuff going on everywhere. We got a severe thunderstorms alert that's probably going to break out along the dry line stretching over the southern and central high plains. More record heat expected from the Great Lakes and middle Mississippi Valley down toward the Ozarks and the southern plains. And of course, we have subtropical storm Alberto. It's going to bring all kind of rain and flash flooding from the eastern Gulf Coast northward. Now, when it comes to Alberto, that threat of tornadoes will exist over the southeastern United States, particularly where appreciable heating occurs, which would bolster instability in the atmosphere. Now, however, the most prominent threat will likely be the drenching tropical rains, with several inches possible from western and central Florida panhandle northward over much of Alabama. And in addition to all of that maximum rain is possible over the interior Carolinas also, given the upper slope effects of this storm. Yeah, we're going to get some rain too in the Carolinas. Now, these mentioned locations can expect the best threat for flash flooding. So just keep that in mind, okay? Now, in advance of an expansive upper low across the southwestern U.S., a north-south oriented dry line over the southern and central high plains will be a focus for active convection. Multiple impulses with the mentioned upper low will be the focus for thunderstorms to develop, particularly as the surface warms up with the daytime heating. Now, much of the thunderstorms and the initiation of these storms should take place on the dry line where numerous severe storms are possible, as it's looking right now. And also, these storms could have a primary hazard of some tornadoes, also some large hail, and who knows, folks, damaging wind altogether for the threat into the evening and overnight hours for locations downstream. By tomorrow, though, the threat area will have adjusted to the east with a primary focus from central Oklahoma up into southern Nebraska. Now we have a wavy west-east oriented boundary. It's going to be generally setting up from South Dakota eastward into the upper Midwest and Great Lakes region. South of this frontal zone, abundant heat will remain the norm with daily record temperatures likely. Departures from climatology are in the 15 to 20 degree range, which supports highs in the 90s as far north as southern Minnesota and Wisconsin. Can you believe that? Going to be hot in the 90s. Southern Minnesota and Wisconsin. Expected highs for today will be in the upper 90s across Minneapolis, St. Paul, with some slight cooling likely by the following day tomorrow. Now, eventually the record heat's going to shift into the southern plains for tomorrow with a particular focus across the Lone Star State. Widespread mid to upper 90s are possible over the central portions of the state with triple digits along the Rio Grande River. Everybody in these Texas areas, I can't stress enough about the heat. It's going to be a humdinger. Look here. Pecos, 107. Odessa, Midland, 106. Everything is 100 or above, except for when you get over into Pine Springs, 90, Van Horn, 99. Such hot weather. Please take precautions in this heat, people. I'm going to leave you with this local statement about subtropical storm Alberto, okay? And this is covering southeastern Florida Panhandle, Florida Big Bend, southeastern Alabama, and southwestern Georgia Panhandle. Here's your current watches and warnings. I'm not going to read all of these places out. You can see them right here. If you're in any of these areas, you are in the watches and warnings at this time. Now, the whole overview of this situation, Alberto has strengthened overnight a little and continues to move northward toward the Florida Panhandle. Additional strengthening is not anticipated prior to the landfall later today. Tropical storm warnings do remain in effect for the entire Florida Gulf Coast, as well as inland portions of the Florida Panhandle, southeast Alabama, and western Florida Big Bend area. Now, Alberto is forecast to slow down and turn toward the northwest, roughly paralleling the coast before making landfall along the Panhandle coast between Panama City and Destin this afternoon. Heavy rain and flash flooding remain the highest threats with Alberto. Expected rainfall amounts 4 to 8 inches with isolated higher amounts to 12 inches are possible, mainly across the Florida Panhandle into southern Alabama. The flash flood watch is still in effect for the Panhandle and Big Bend, southeast Alabama, and extreme southwest Georgia area. The threat for tropical storm force winds remain the same across the region, with the Florida Panhandle likely seeing the greatest impacts. The greatest threat for storm surge impacts will be this afternoon during the high tide cycles between 2 and 4 feet above inundation. That's what's possible, and there is that risk for isolated tornadoes across the entire tri-state region from this evening through tomorrow. So with all that said and done, everyone have a good Memorial Day. Thank all of the veterans who have served us. Please subscribe, click the bell, get the latest in weather news, forecast, alerts, and tropical information. I'd appreciate it a lot if you do that. Thanks so much for your comments. Don't forget to like, and please share this information. Everyone have a good day. Much peace, love, and kindness to each of you.